Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robert Kiyosaki, and my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
Who wants to live below their means? I want to live the best life I can possibly live. So I talk about this often. I use liability. If I want to buy a new Ferrari, I first buy an asset, and the asset pays for the Ferrari. I wanted a Rolls Royce. Why? Because I never had a Rolls Royce. I've had Bentleys. So I built an asset, and the asset then bought my Rolls Royce. Now I'm kind of bored with cars. So I don't have a guilty thing, is that I have financial education, which is what the Rich Dad Company teaches. And you can have the same thing too. You just have to stop listening to those school teachers who are poor. You know, most school teachers, like my poor dad, very good people, but they're so terrified of making mistakes. They want a steady paycheck, and they want a guaranteed pension. I don't think you can get rich from that point of view. Look at this chart here. It's called the cash flow quadrant. E and S, employee and self-employed. That was my poor dad. You know, these guys work for money. These guys are not capitalists. They work for money and they invest their own money. On the B and the I side is my rich dad side. That's the capitalist side. Capitalists use other people's labor and other people's money to get rich. Which side do you want to be on? I'd rather be on the capitalist side. So that's the only difference. It's a whole shift of mindset and education, but everybody can do it if you want to do it.
Real estate is a very important asset class. So a lot of people think, well, I have stocks, I have bonds, I have mutual funds, but they're just assets. But real estate is, to me, the single most important asset class to study, especially today, since I just was watching CNBC, Bubble Vision, and they finally acknowledged that Zillow has a 7,000 property problem because they flip property. And naturally, I tax, and I don't flip property. I hold property forever. I collect rent forever, and I pay no taxes. So if you like paying taxes, then, don't invest in real estate. If you like paying taxes, have a 401k, biggest ripoff I've ever seen. But so that's why real estate as an asset class in the macro picture globally is the single most important subject, but also the most complex. And the reason it's complex is if you buy, let's say, Apple stock, and you make a mistake, you'll say you buy Apple at Tesla at $1,000 or something. You buy Tesla at $1,000 and it starts to crash, you can get out tonight. You can get out immediately. But you buy a piece of real estate, you can't get out. So in financial literacy, which most school teachers have no idea what that means, the word is called liquidity. And the reason real estate needs to be studied more than any other subject, other than entrepreneurship, is liquidity. You start a business, you can't get out if you make a mistake. If you buy a piece of real estate, you can't get out.
What should you do? Are you saying get out of equities, get out of your positions, stay in cash and keep that cash on the sideline to take advantage of the crash? What are you saying that an investor who's watching Kitco, who's watching these other channels, who's watching your channel, should potentially do in order to best protect their portfolio?
Well, that's a great question, because the only reason you'd be worried, it really goes back to what did you buy?
Yeah.
Remember, your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. So I remember in 2000, gold went down to like 300 or something like this. I thought I died and went to heaven. I just backed up the truck. So when Bitcoin went to, let's say, 20,000, I was going, well, that's kind of interesting. So when it backed down to 3, then rebounded to 6, I picked it up at 6, and it's 41 today. So your profits are made when you buy, not when you sell. So if you're worried about your position, you probably bought too high.
I said this whole thing is, should you be an entrepreneur? Well, a lot has to do with what your family said about it. My poor dad always said the rich were crooks. Entrepreneurs were crooks. The rich were greedy. School, all you had to do was have a college degree, you were set. Different cultures.
Yeah.
And I had to go against all this, especially respecting the father.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
You've long advocated for investing in real estate as a source of income, one of the biggest premises of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do you still suggest investing in real estate, in the real estate market now?
Absolutely. You want to invest in things that last. That's Jim Rickards. Invest in what lasts. But this is the key. Let me explain something. Behind me is my cash flow board game. There's 2 tracks on the board game. There's a rat race, which is a 401k guy. And then there's a fast track. That's a capitalist track. In other words, this is it here. Okay, so this is this is book 2 of the Rich Dad series, ESBI. So our schools teach us to be employees and self-employed like doctors, lawyers, and stuff like this. Capitalists teach people to be business owners or brand owners and investors. But the only way you get out of the rat race is via a thing called a financial statement. So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and if you read Cash Flow Quadrant and you play the cash flow game, you have to have a financial statement. Your financial statement is what your banker wants to see. So when I go talk, I just borrowed $31 million a couple of weeks ago for a piece of property in Austin, Texas. If I didn't have a strong financial statement, I couldn't borrow $31 million. And so what's happening today is the poor middle class who went to school, they got their jobs and all this stuff, they're being wiped out, while the rich are getting richer because everything the Fed prints stays in the asset class, not the business class.
Finally, one day I had this transformational event. I did a thing called EST, Earhart Seminars Training. Everybody did it, and all this. And I sat in this room and I realized I was a liar. And I realized that's why I'd never be successful, because I could lie, cheat, and steal, and I was very good at it. And so I called up Captain Abrams, and I was living in Hawaii, in Waikiki. I was making a lot of money in real estate. And I called Captain Abrams, and I said, Captain, I'm coming in. He said, what do you mean you're coming in? I said, I'm going to come in. I will tell you what I know. He couldn't believe it. I just realized if I didn't confess my sins, as a Catholic would say, I'd go to hell. Hell is not in hell. Hell is I live with my lying, cheating, stealing every day of my life. So I took the stand, and he deposed me. I told him the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I told him every criminal event. They weren't really criminal. They were petty thieves. I did stupid things like fly this, did this, I machine gun goats from my helicopter. And I said, I did all this. At the end of it, 3.5 hours, I think I lost 20 pounds. And he said, I said to him, he says, Captain, he goes, I'm going to go to jail. He says, no, just thank you for telling the truth. He gave me an honorable discharge. And it was one of the most profound, transformational, metamorphosis. You go from an immature form to an adult form. I grew up. I said, holy mackerel, the truth will set you free. I understand that at a level that the average person will never know, because I had been such a scumbag, dishonest, disciplinary problem. And then, like with my wife, I've never cheated on her. Most of my friends cheat on their wives, 70% do. But when I said I'd get married this time, I would not cheat on her. Marriage is still hard, but cheating makes it worse, if you know what I mean. So it's a matter of not trying to change the world out there. The crisis is between this here and in your heart. And that's why being a military leader, a wartime leader, is important, because it's about courage at this time. It's about being truthful, being forthright, being upright, being a stand-up guy. That's the difference today. And it's not about what the crooks are doing, it's what you're doing.
It was really hard because I didn't like, I'm actually a very shy person. Mm-hmm. So learning how to sell was the hardest thing I could do. But if I hadn't spent 4 years learning how to sell, I never made it here, I never made it here.
So the entire time that you were here, you were preparing to jump to the other quadrant.
Correct. So every job is not so much for the high-paying job with job security.
Yeah.
For not everybody. You know, most people should have job security because they're not designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you better take this job and say, well, which way am I going to go?
Yeah.
So I knew my job at Xerox was to go here and here and here,
Yeah.
not stay here. And I actually make so much money over here that I don't need job security, I need the money. So really that's the lesson. When you look at a job, you look at what can I learn more than how much can I make. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look for a job where you can learn a lot, the harder the job, the better it is.
And it's especially with real estate. So let me say this much. In macro, there's 4 different asset classes. Number one is a business. So I set out to build a business which is a brand. Like Warren Buffett only invests in brands like Coca-Cola. So Rich Dad became a brand. But to keep my money, I had to have real estate. So let's say I make $1 million at Rich Dad. I go into real estate, I borrow $4 million. And then guys like Dave Ramsey are saying, get out of debt. I said, well, it's good for you, Dave, but it doesn't work for me because I hate paying taxes and I like making money. So then the third asset class, which is stocks, bonds, paper, mutual funds, savings. I don't touch that stuff. And number 5 are gold, silver, Bitcoin. And because that's where I store my value. So when I need money, I use debt. And the reason Bigger Pockets, Brandon Turner and David Green are here is because when you use debt, that is frickin' dangerous. I was just in Dallas 3 days ago with my partner in real estate, Kenny McElroy, who's probably the smartest guy I know.
I love him.
He's the best, man. He is one smart dude. And he stood up there on stage with me. I said, Kenny, how much money have you borrowed this half a year so far? $300 million.
Yeah.
He sucked the air out of the room. Do you know what I mean? I said, well, why did you borrow $300 million? So number one, we like to make money and we don't want to pay taxes. To me, that's smart. I'm still saying buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Now, but will gold and silver and Bitcoin go up and down? Of course. But that's why you want to buy the stuff early. So I'm in my entry price for Bitcoin is 9,000. When it goes to, let's say, 20,000, I'm still in the money. So right now, I'm very impressed with Bitcoin. I like the blockchain idea. I'm learning more. I'm an old guy, but I'm learning. But I do think it's the money of the future. At least blockchain is going to help it out. All these other cryptos coming out, I don't know about it. I just think my friends who are in the know tell me that Bitcoin is still the old dog, the best one to buy. So, but I'm not saying buy Bitcoin. I'm just saying I'm buying Bitcoin. It's a big difference. And I'm still buying gold and silver, but I started buying gold at $50 and silver at $1. So I'm in the money. So the best time to prepare for a crash is before the crash. So think about this. If I'm right, I'm not saying I'm right. Let's say they blow this huge bubble. Biden keeps handing out more stimmy checks and whatever these cartoons are doing. I mean, these guys are criminals. I mean, how can, I'm not political, but Trump was building a wall in the southern border and Biden opens the gates. I'm going, this country could not be more screwed up. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's better to be smarter than be euphoric right now. That's what I'm saying. So I get really rich when markets crash. So I'm watching Bitcoin. This is July 2021. When Bitcoin gets around 27 to 24,000, I get interested again. So that's like having Neiman Marcus go on sale. So let's say I like these pair of Prada shoes. So I love Prada shoes. Why? Because I have fat feet. They fit. They're comfortable. They really are comfortable. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, so let's say Prada shoes at $500. Neiman raises the price. Oh, today it's $700.
Would people rush in and buy Prada shoes at $700 when they're only $500? But that's what these idiots are doing today. They're buying stocks at all-time highs, buying real estate at all-time highs. I'm going, everybody's happy. Why do people get happy when you're buying assets at tops of markets? So if I'm not saying, if Neiman Marcus says, well, those Prada shoes that were $700 are now on sale at $1, guess what? I'm not going to say, oh, that's terrible. The shoe price crashed. No, I'm going to get really excited. I'm going to stock up on Prada shoes or whatever there is, you know? So ladies and gentlemen, only idiots buy at the top of a market. And today the world is full of idiots, full of idiots. Everybody's happy. So let me say it again. This is an old saying in my world of investing. How did you go broke? Well, two ways. Slowly at first, then suddenly. And I think that's my warning to you today. I'd be prepared for the crash. When Bitcoin gets down to 24, I'm going to come alive again. I'm going to get a little bit more excited. If gold goes down to, let's say, 1,000, I'm going to back up the truck. If silver goes to, let's say, 15, I'm going to back up the truck. So right now, I'm in a cash position. I'm just waiting for the crash.
In my opinion, all the smart guys are saying, silver is your best investment. Silver is 50% off its all-time high. I love silver. I mean, I just bought some more. I mean, I don't mind. I buy silver mines, but I also buy silver coins. So let me just say my simple philosophy as a capitalist is, gold is for saving, silver is for spending. So if the S hits the fan, as you know, I'm going to be spending my silver.
You've been making headlines, everyone's covering it, where you're warning people, hey, folks, brace for a major market crash here.
Right.
What do you bring us this Christmas, Robert?
Well, you know, the reason I love you guys is because I'm a hardcore gold, silver, and, you know, I'm Bitcoin and all this. I'm a hard asset guy. So it's good news for us, but it's bad news for the boomers. Very bad news. And what's happening is Jay Powell of the Fed is trying to push the yield curve up. But as most of you know, the real yield curve is the euro dollar curve. It's not the Fed curve. And the euro dollar curve went inverted. Now, every time that has happened, tragedy follows. So most of us are old enough to remember the last time that yield curve, not the last time, but an earlier time was 2007, the euro dollar yield curve inverted and the Fed was trying to hold it up. So the Fed's pushing it this way, but the euro dollar is going this way. And that led to the Lehman moment, 2008. So then what happened in 2019, it inverted again, the repo market inverted, the euro dollar inverted, and COVID appeared. So once again, the euro dollar yield curve inverted just recently. And I'm standing alongside my friend Jim Rickards that this next one is going to be the biggest of all. Now, it's good news for some people, but horrible news for the boomers who are starting to retire. So if you're a stock market person and you're counting on the stock market to keep you alive,
yep.
You know, let's say you're 65 years old and you're going to live to 85, you might be in serious trouble.
When you were in school, were you an A student or a C student? You know, were you the star of the class or the flunky of the class? And if you weren't the A student, then did that mean you couldn't be successful? Is that what it means to you? If you didn't go to a great school, you're never going to be successful? What if you drop out? You know, what if you drop out like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates? That means you've had it. Jack Ma, who was the founder of a little company called Alibaba, he just recently said, if you're 35 and you're not rich and successful, you'll never be successful. Of course, Jack Ma is a school teacher, former school teacher who struck it rich. But naturally, they have this idea that if you're not successful in school, you'll never be successful in life. And my contention has always been it almost damages you in school. School damaged my brain, and my father was the head of education for the state of Hawaii, PhD. And I hated school. I sat there and getting pounded all the time for being stupid. This is gold. This is real security. It's God's money. So is silver. And so is Bitcoin due to the blockchain technology. I'm not saying buy any of this stuff. I'm just telling you why I own this. So this is real money. I can travel anywhere in the world. Its value goes up and down as it's manipulated, and I can spend it. But what this is, the Zimbabwe dollar, is fake money. And the only way this comes into existence is an entrepreneur like me creates an asset. Rich Dad Poor Dad is about assets versus liabilities. So I go into BlackRock and I say, guess what? I have a startup here. Tesla or something. And Tesla is now $1 trillion company. But what happens if GM and, Biden doesn't like Tesla, I can tell, because he doesn't recommend them. I'm not in the game. I'm not in that dogfight. But let's say that GM comes out with an electric car that you can buy for $2. Tesla's toast. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so much of the stock market is based upon the valuation of a company like Tesla, or like the earlier thing, Netflix or Blockbuster Video. So much of it is you don't know what's called the counterparty to it. The only counterparty to this is God. God made this. And silver, God made this. And the Bitcoin is blockchain. That's what gives Ethereum and blockchain. So some people ask me, I'm Satoshi. I said, no, I don't speak Japanese. But I don't know anything about blockchain, but I just don't trust this. I don't trust the US dollar. I don't trust the Fed. I don't trust the Treasury. And I don't trust our government. And I don't trust Wall Street. If you do, invest your ass off. But what they're doing is they're creating what I call a fake asset.
Yeah.
So let's say I go to you and say, Sarah, I'm starting this company. And I've been there. They hype the company. Yeah. And so really the issue is trust today. This thing here is in God we trust. There's no counterparty risk to it. But there's a lot of counterparty risk to this. And there's a lot of counterparty risk to BlackRock, to the stock market and all this. This is called a financial statement. What makes the cash flow game different from Monopoly, which how my rich dad taught me via Monopoly, is my rich dad also taught me about financial statements. So the cash flow is the only game with a financial statement. So really simply, when you look at a financial statement, there's income, expense, assets, liabilities. There's one more thing in the cash flow game on the financial statement you'll see. It's the most important statement of all. It's called the statement of cash flow. It's off to the side here. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur or a capitalist, you have to have one of these. You're going to be rich, you have to have one of these. But 99% of all high school students leaving school and college have no idea what this is. You have FICO scores, but you don't know what this is.
No.
So when a banker asks you for your financial statement, they want to see how smart you are here. So let me tell you why school makes students poor. So really simply, it's this. Let's say I have a master's in arts, Master of Arts degree, right?
Yeah.
Or a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Yeah.
Do I learn anything about income?
No.
What about Greek mythology?
Oh, there you go. That's very important.
I learned nothing about income. And we wonder why kids are leaving school, or young generation, looking for that high-paying job. But now let me ask you this. If you have a degree in technology, mm-hmm. Do you learn anything about assets?
Never.
So you could be a techie and you know nothing about this.
Yeah.
You could be a techie and know nothing about this. You see, when a banker looks at your financial statement, they're looking at the mirror of you. Mm-hmm. This is a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. And if you got Jack here and Jack here, then you're not that smart financially. Yeah.
So the reason the cash flow game is such an important game, it teaches you what is important to your banker or for a capitalist or for an entrepreneur, is that an entrepreneur's got to know how to increase their income.
Yeah.
And an entrepreneur's got to know how to create assets. Mm-hmm. If you don't know those two things, you should not be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You should be an employee.
Right now, if you're in Minneapolis and they vote to defund the police, you're toast. I mean, your $100,000 house goes to $10,000 because nobody wants to live there. So you understand it's not real estate, it's really the macro around real estate. And I've never met so many idiots in my life. You know, I'm going, holy mackerel. And just remember this, you know, you can buy a stock like Amazon and you make a mistake, you can get out tonight. You buy a piece of real estate like in Minneapolis or wherever they're going to defund the police, you can't get out. Yeah. You're going to ride that Titanic down. You know, Kim and I had to sell a piece of property in Portland, Oregon. Beautiful property, all the bells and whistles on the water, you know, boat docks, all this crap. Yeah. But the trouble is that tenants couldn't get in there because the number of homeless camped out in front of it were thick. The tenants couldn't get to the property and the police wouldn't do anything.
Real quickly, this is a cash flow quadrant, you know. You have E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed or small business, or a specialist like a doctor or a lawyer. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more, and I stands for insider investor. See, these guys are passive investors, they're outsiders. These guys invest from the inside. So the I's are like Shark Tank guys, like Mark Cuban and all that. They're entrepreneurs who now acquire other companies. So when I was probably in my 20s, or when I was growing up, should I say, my dad wanted me to be an employee. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I could fly. So he wanted me to fly for the airlines as a pilot. So I didn't want to do that. And my mom, she was a nurse, and she wanted me to be a specialist, like a medical doctor. And I said to my mom, "This is one problem." I said, "Medical doctors are smart. That's what S stands for." She goes, "You're right. You'll never be a doctor." So I only had one hope, was to go to the B side and the I side. So today, you know, I own many, many businesses and I invest from the inside. Now, some people say, well, insider trading, that's illegal. It's not illegal. There are certain parts of insider trading that's illegal, but the biggest deal is always inside. So what my rich dad taught me is, if you're not on the inside, you're on the outside. And the reason most people don't make much money is on the outside. You know, like just now, Uber and Lyft floated on the stock exchanges. The insiders already made their money. Now the outsiders come in. That's the game. So in my lifetime, I've taken 3 companies public on the Toronto Stock Exchange: a gold company, a silver company, and an oil company. I did it because I wanted to find out what it's like to be on this side, on the B and the I side. And they're completely different worlds, different mindsets, different human beings. So if you want to go to school, this is where people wind up, E and S. And Rich Dad stands for people who want to be on this side here. It's a very different mindset, skill sets, education process.
The reason there's no counterparty risk, this is an element. I forget the number. Silver is an element, and Bitcoin is blockchain. There's no counterparty risk. This is a Zim dollar. It's no difference than a US dollar or a US stock or a US bond. And so that's why you don't find me saving dollars. I save gold, silver, Bitcoin. And it could change. You know, I mean, Bitcoin could become obsolete also. But the reason I listen to guys like Anthony Pompliano and all the smart young guys is they'll give me early warning if something's going to come up. So you got to pay attention to what YouTube is saying if they don't take them down, like they took George Gammon down. But ladies and gentlemen, you've really got to be smarter today. And that's why the Rich Dad Company was founded. We don't sell stocks or bonds or mutual funds or gold. You know, we just sell awareness, be aware of what's happening. If you want to speak macroeconomics, you always ask, who's the counterparty? So in other words, when I borrowed money when I first started out, nobody would lend me money because they don't trust me. Do you know?
Because who are you?
Yeah, as credibility got up, and I lost a lot of money at the start. You know, Kim and I went broke and all this stuff. But each mistake we made, we got smarter. We met smarter team members like our Rich Dad team right now. We met a lot of crooks, like our first CEO, our second CEO, and our third CEO who we've met. They're all crooks. They cheat, they lie, they steal. I can't believe it. So Kim and I were in horrible shape because, the first people were, oh, we love Rich Dad. And they were stealing as much as they could. Holy mackerel. But that's how you meet, the lesson we teach is that every time you meet a bad partner, you meet a good partner. So most of our best partners today came from bad partners. So you got to be very, very careful because my new book's coming out. It's called The Capitalist Manifesto. But the terminology is this. Who is the counterparty to this gold coin? God. And who is the counterparty to this? The government. Who do you trust? Who's the counterparty to Bitcoin? Blockchain. It's people's money. I trust the people more than the government. And that's why I support Bitcoin. Could I be wrong? Possibly, But that's why I listen to YouTube, even though they take me down all the time. But some of these guys, like I said, Michael Saylor and Pompliano and all this, they'll send out the warning if something's wrong. Like I said, and Kenny and I were in Dallas, Texas at the Sovereign Man. And everybody's up there, Kenny stands up there and says, I just borrowed $300 million. The average guy can't get a $30,000 loan, much a $300 million loan. But the power of real estate is debt, and the more debt you have, you don't pay any taxes. But you better know what you're doing because you don't just buy it for that reason. I was talking to John about the party I went to. These people were talking about real estate. And I just had to tell them, I really cannot endorse what you're doing. You're buying real estate at the top of a market. Yes, but real estate always goes up. I said, maybe. But if it comes down, the trouble with real estate is illiquid. This gold here is as liquid as they come. I can go anywhere in the world and somebody will give me money for it. Anywhere. But real estate, no. S&P 500 is liquid. This is liquid. And so is cash liquid. I've been accused of being a racist so many times. And then I was accused of being a white supremacist. And I looked in the mirror and said, no, I'm still Asian.
Right. Yeah.
The basic skill on this side, according to my rich dad, was you have to sell. Mm-hmm. You cannot be an entrepreneur if you cannot sell.
Yeah.
And that scared the crap out of me because, I'm Japanese. I'm really a shy person. Mm-hmm. And my rich dad looked at me and he says, you're shy, huh? Big deal. What are you going to do about it? I said, well, I just don't, I just don't like rejection. I don't like this and I don't like that. I could kill people, but I couldn't talk to them. So my rich dad's pressuring me. He says, I said, I don't want to sell because on my poor dad's side, the Japanese side, salesmen are scum, salesmen are crooks, salesmen are con men. And on this side, sales, you have to have the ability to sell. Can you handle rejection? Mm-hmm. Can somebody say no to you and can you come back? And I didn't want to do that. I'm a very shy person. So he says that shyness is killing me.
Hey, Robert, what advice would you give a 20-year-old man who is starting his entrepreneurial career?
Start. Study. What accumulates, fat accumulates, but so does knowledge and wisdom. And so I could be sitting at a bar, instead of listening to a Rich Cooper or Rollo, I could be sitting at a bar sucking down chicken wings and a Budweiser. Mm-hmm. That accumulates. Or I could be listening to YouTube, listening to you guys, and listening to Gammon, and listening to guys like Records. And I also listen to the Marxists. Some of these guys, they give me the creeps. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Marxists and communists on YouTube.
Well, you have to know your enemy, right? You have to know what they're plotting. Intel.
It's called keep an open mind, what I mean? I would say the most important thing at this juncture in history in 2022 is get smarter. Listen to real teachers. That was the choice I had to make at the age of 9. Do I listen to my poor dad who was a PhD, or to listen to my rich dad? That's a tough decision for a 9-year-old kid. But when I came back from Vietnam, I flew for the Marine Corps. My poor dad said to go back to school, get my PhD. And I said, I can't do that. And I became an entrepreneur instead. So I never needed a job again. That was the difference. I was a free human being. I'm sitting in Sunday school at 7, and the Sunday school teacher says, hey, why were the 3 wise men wise? And I said, because they were rich. She said, why do you think the wise men were rich? I said, well, they had gold, frankincense, and myrrh. She says, that's not the reason they were rich. I said, what's the reason? And I never forgot her reason. She says, they always sought the best teacher. And I'm not religious, but they were seeking Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So in times of trouble, always seek the best teachers.
Let me draw this picture. You guys have seen it before. But again, if you look at it this way, this is intelligences. And this is what makes us up. This makes us human beings. We have mental intelligence. Mm-hmm. We have physical intelligence. You know, like Tiger Woods is a fantastic golfer. I suck, you know. And then you have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, they call it EQ, is the most important. Because I get my feelings hurt all the time. I get angry. I hallucinate in my head. You know, I think things that aren't true. But the biggest one of all is the spiritual. And the difference between mental and spiritual, it's very simple. Mental causes 2. So man, woman, good, bad, up, down. Where spiritual is 1. So I'll give you an example. Why do I do my work? Mm-hmm. Yesterday I was driving down the road and I saw this young guy. God, just broke my heart. You know, he's standing there in the hot Phoenix sun. He's just unemployed, need money to feed the kids and all that. Now, mentally I could say, well, get a job, you idiot, you know, da-da-da. But spiritually, I am him. I feel for him. Yeah. So in my work, I work for this. You know, like, I don't need the money. Yeah. But as my teacher was Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, and he says, I don't work for me, I work for everyone. And that was one of the biggest lessons I got from the military. You know, from the military was very high spiritual intelligence. That's why your dad and I get along so well. Because when we went into combat, which is a horrible experience of good and bad people, enemy and friends, you know. But when we climbed into our aircraft, there was a crew of 5. We became 1. It is the best feeling, as horrible as it is, flying into combat, because we might not come back. But it was the highest feeling of all. It was spiritual. And I'm afraid it's not just millennials, it's human beings, you know. Well, you know, is this good? Is this bad? Is this the best Vuitton shirt? Can I get it at a better price? Or he's cute or she's cute, you know, I mean, but is there somebody better, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's going on.
So you guys are stuck in your head, and I think you should get more into your spirit, you know, like saying, what can I do for my fellow human being? Yeah. What can I do for the environment? And I think the biggest secret of my success is I have all, you know, we all have these. We all have some degree of physical things we do. Yeah. Emotionally, I'm a basket case a lot of the time, you know. I get upset, I get angry, I get sad, I get my feelings hurt. And I'm always, this is good, this is bad, this is, you know, you watch politics, it's all good and bad, it's a bunch of BS. But what keeps me going is this, and it's spiritual. Yeah. Is how can I serve others? How can I serve the planet? How can I fix this problem? Get to the point where you don't need money. It's called the infinite return. And that's my next book coming out next year.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you don't need money, you're home free. You'll never need money. You don't care. You can always put a deal together. You can always create an asset out of nothing. You know, it's like, I don't know what else. It's the power of God-given power. So like I said, when I write a book, I'm selling 50 copies, 50 licenses, day one. And let's say I get 10,000 a license. How much is that? 50 times 10,000? Is it 500,000?
50 times 10,000?
Yeah.
That's 500,000.
Yeah, so I'm in the black immediately. What does it cost me? Maybe $10,000 to write a book. Do you know? So I'm in the black. The same thing if I trade a stock. I'll buy a stock at $1, it goes up to 10, and I sell. So I have all free trading stock. I have no money in it. That's what Buffett's doing. They're all infinite return guys.
Sure.
You have no money into the deal, and you can do it with anything. And the paycheck is one of the most sinister plots ever pulled upon a human being. If you need a paycheck, you've sold your soul. You know, you sold your body, your mind, your spirit, and your emotions. You sit there in fear of losing your job, or can I get a raise, or, you know, will I get promoted? I mean, and then why would you do that? Another thing about, the reason we endorse network marketing, we don't think of it as a network marketing, we think of it as entrepreneur development. Because if you need a paycheck, this is not your business. You know, we build businesses. So sometimes when Kim and I do a deal, we may not receive a paycheck for 5-6 years. You know, and so these guys come, oh, am I gonna get rich quick? You know, and some people do, I don't know if you do or not, but that is an employee, get rich, loser mindset. And so the thing that network marketing does is really kind of cure you of that loser paycheck, get rich quick mentality, and actually build a business. You know, we build businesses, and that's how we're rich, but we didn't get rich quick, and I don't need a paycheck, and I never want a paycheck. So that's kind of a revolutionary thought to most people up there who went to school to get good grades and get a job. You know, and they get a high-paying job, and the higher-paying job, you pay higher taxes, and you wonder why you never get ahead. That's because you went to school to get a job and a paycheck. You've got to get away from the paycheck, and sometimes it might take 2-3 years to get away from that. And that's what network marketing teaches people. It's an entrepreneur's mindset, it's an entrepreneur's spirit, not a loser employee, I need a paycheck mentality.
How do you deal with critics? Like, do you have a go-to formula? Like, how do you deal with that?
Again, Rich, I want to thank you for that. You and Rollo. I am not bullshitting you because I don't need to do this. It's when you talk about chasing excellence and getting people into frame, you know, and one of the things I used to do is I'd shine off people. Mm-hmm. They come up and talk to me about, well, thank you for the book. And now I don't do that. So people stop me and say, thank you for writing your book. I stay with them. My excellence is to be a better human being with them. Everybody that comes up to me, because not that it was going to my head, is I'm busy. And I don't have time for somebody to tell me how they made $10,000. You know, I just go, whoa, you know. I sit there, listen to them, but, you know, but it's in everything I do. Can I be excellent at it? Can I be a better human being towards them? And it's in what that's what I'm saying. It's the word excellence is a mental word. Well, how do I convert it to action? And when I convert it to action, I change. You know, Maria Montessori, the Montessori school system, she says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. But too many academics, they have good memory, but they can't do shit. Mm. You know, I mean, that's my whole family, the great people, PhDs. I have one distant relative. He's 40 years old. He's living in the basement, and he's going for his second PhD. He can't find a job. I said, duh. Is God trying to tell you something?
Yeah, so just don't pay attention to that.
So what do?
You don't have any time to pay attention to haters if you're chasing excellence, right?
Well, there's a saying I have, you know, don't teach pigs to sing. It wastes your time. It annoys the pig.
Yeah.
So I don't argue with them. I'm a writer, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't take the hard road. And the reason I couldn't write was because I was a surfer. Now I love surfing, and I had dreams of someday becoming a professional surfer. And then it dawned on me that my friends were cool guys. You know, they're good looking, they have great bodies, and they're all cool and drinking and smoking and having a good time. I didn't do any of that stuff. But they lack discipline. And that was the thing. I said, you know, they have no discipline. They're cutting class, they're doing this, and where am I going to wind up if I follow them? So I kind of woke up and
I realized I needed discipline. Now, discipline is not punishment because there is punishment. You see, if you're not disciplined, the world will punish you. But also, you will punish yourself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of realized that, and that's why I applied for military school. Nobody thought I could get in because my grades were D's and F's, but I had high SAT scores. And so I went to a military school in New York, and I have found discipline. And then I joined the Marine Corps for more discipline. And then I became a pilot in Vietnam for more discipline. So when I meet most people today, and I'm the same way, we all want the easy road. Give me the easy answer.
Think about entrepreneurs. You're not manual labor. So you're working with your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. You're just timing things, observing things. You have to have good friends, people you trust implicitly.
Yeah.
And I have fantastic staff. I trust them with, some of my people have been around me for 20 years. Some of my best partners are 40 years. And we trust each other. So that takes time. What are you doing to make your money? So if I was selling drugs, that'd be a violation of my morals and my ethics. And then what do you do with your money? So, when I was first starting off in real estate, I had to learn, I had to learn how to inspect the property. So there's all different classes of real estate. So I started off in what they call trailers, those little mobile, they just tow them up there. Yeah. I'm going in there and I go, here's this crappy ass trailer. They're renting from this guy, but the guy's got a brand new Ford pickup outside. I'm going, I don't have a brand new Ford pickup, but you can always learn. The reason the guy's poor, instead of owning he could be doing the same thing I'm doing, but the reason he's poor, he's always trading in his pickup because they'll give him, we'll give you extra money for your thing, just sign here and all this. They just keep getting into debt. And that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I've created my cash flow board game and all this. Because, man, we don't teach people between assets and liabilities and income and expenses and cash flow. We're poor anyway. It doesn't make a difference how much you make, because I have a lot of friends who look rich, if you know what I mean. They got the Mercedes, got the roller, got the big house. But this COVID has blown them apart. They have no foundation. They look good. They dress nice. They wear the nice watches and the clothes. But they're now having to sell their properties because they can't afford it. You know what I'm talking about? So it's the same problem, It's just how you manage your money.
One of the biggest mistakes, I still hear it today from young people, I don't have to worry because I'm still
young.
Yeah, and that is death to most people because eventually you get old and then you're not young again. So it's a way of saying, when I talk about assets and liabilities, one of the most important things you have in your life is time. It's one of your greatest assets, or it's your liability. And I just turned 70, and I have friends who have nothing. I mean, they have zero. Now they've made a lot of money, but they have nothing here. They have nice houses, nice cars, 16 wives, 19 kids. I don't know what they have, but you know what I mean? And being young is great, except it can be a liability to you. Because when you're young, you're just having a lot of fun and life's exciting, it's new. So, at the time, but the thing is, this is the lesson today, is so many people spend their time focusing here. They want to make a lot of money. And I can hear it in their words. They say, I want a career. This is career. Okay, or I'm going to start my own business. And this is the chart here, which we've seen. This is the cash flow quadrant, book number 2. E is employee. S is small business, self-employed, or a specialist like a doctor, a lawyer, a web designer. B is big business, 500 employees or more, and I is professional investor. So when I was your age, I knew I wanted to get here. This takes time. This is the hardest, you know. This is where the big mega bucks are, and Kim and I are here, and the money is massive, but it takes time to get there. The big mistake I see young people make is they focus here. And the words are, I want to do what I love. That's the track. You see, in real life, sometimes you have to do what you hate. Like, people think I like to write books. I hate writing books. But it fills my purpose in life. It's not my passion, my purpose in life. Because my purpose was to get here. A lot of these guys get trapped here doing what they love. And as we've talked about on earlier episodes of this thing, these guys pay the highest taxes. 40% here, 60% in taxes here, 20% here, and then 0% here. So when I was before my 20s, I knew I wanted to go there, and it wasn't doing what I loved. I had to learn what I didn't want to learn. I had sometimes to do what I hated. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about debt. I had to take classes. I had to learn about insurance. So I was doing a lot of things I hated doing so I could come over here. These guys never do this because they live their passion. I want my passion. The difference in passion is greedy, purpose is for other people. So my purpose was to come over here so I could serve more people. Okay. So I have employees here and all this. I don't buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds because as a professional investor, I can create my own assets. There's three kinds of money today that you guys got to be aware of. One is God's money, and God's money is gold and silver. So this is silver, and this is gold. The reason I brought it is most people don't know what it looks like. And then there's government money, which is fiat currency, which is the dollar, the yen, the peso, the euro, the yuan. Fake. And everybody's working hard for it. It's like eating fake food or drinking fake water. That's why people are getting sick financially, because they're working for fake money. Okay. And then there's fake assets, which was another part of the fake millennial, the fake generation series. But the reason I brought this here is most people haven't seen it. This here is real silver, plata. Okay. That's what it looks like. And so in 1972, and this here is gold. This is God's money. This is what God's money looks like. The reason I call it God's money is you can't fake it. You know, you can fake it with a fake ETF, like a gold ETF or a silver, which I don't touch because it smells as bad as the guys that printed that crap. You know what I mean? Jesus. But this is real money. So you look at this here. When I first started buying that, that was $1.40. Today, that's $16. And this here is oro, gold. And the reason we brought it in is most people haven't seen or touched. This is real. This is God's money. Why did I say it's God's money? Because He was here when the earth was created. And it'll be here when we're all dead and gone. When you're saving those fake dollars, this will still be here. Or those fake ETFs or those fake stocks. A lot of your generation are saying tax the rich. As they say, never happened, Joe. Because the tax laws need the rich to do what the government wants done. They're incentives. I provide housing, jobs, and food and energy. So that's what they should be teaching, but our schools will never teach that because they're fake teachers. Anything else? So that's kind of a review of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, thank God you gave that. I mean, even when you were talking about jobs, it's like, well, yeah, none of us would be here if it wasn't for you creating this company. And so it's kind of curious as to why the government wouldn't want us to be creating more houses, more companies. Why aren't they making us learn this in school?
Well, because it's fake education. It's fake teachers. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And like I said, when the rich took over, there was Rockefellers, Carnegie, Mellon, and they said, they said, we don't need more entrepreneurs, we need more employees. So the purpose of American education is to create soldiers and employees, people who just do as they're told, but know nothing about money. Millennials are the most highly, in many ways, the most highly educated generation in history. They have the cell phone. They didn't get educated in school. They got educated on social media, on the cell phones. They know all the answers, but they're afraid of doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest complaint about my generation is millennials know all the answers, but they can't do anything. And the reason they can't do anything is because you might hurt somebody's feelings, you might make a mistake, you know, and that just keeps you guys just trapped in this little box here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I think millennial money is such an important point here, because if you're going to come into my world, old guy's world, or the information age, you've really got to understand what is risky and what is not risky. And in my world, if you play it safe, that makes you stupid. Because if you don't take risks, you don't get smarter.
Yeah.
You know, so you may know the answer, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I had is I went to military school, then I went to flight school. I had such great teachers, you know. All of them could fly. You know, so my flight instructor could fly. What a novel idea. You know, a flight instructor can fly. But when I was in high school, most of my teachers were terrified. They're all cowards, you know. Job security, don't make mistakes. Just memorize the right answer and you'll be safe. And that's why most school teachers aren't rich.
Yeah.
And they teach that to your generation today.
Yeah.
The irony is, you know, when I left school in the 60s, there was plenty of jobs, but the world has changed.
Yeah.
And our schools haven't. And so they're still making this innate promise of get a job. And I was very fortunate when I graduated in '69. We're the highest paid graduates in the world. My classmates were making about $120,000 to $150,000 a year. Wow. That's not much money today, but 1969, that was a lot of money. But naturally, as young guys do, we spent every penny of it.
Yeah.
So I had my rich dad's lesson, the rich don't work for money, in my head. I said, okay, I'm making all this money. I have a secure job. But what's beyond that? And that's where education comes in. So if I could explain this to you for the rest of the millennial lessons, it's really going to be on this theme here. Because financial education is about not working for money. Like one of the first questions, when I finally realized what my rich dad was saying, I said, well, when do I never need a paycheck again? See, my goal wasn't, you know, go to the moon or, you know, cure cancer. My job was, when would I never need a paycheck again? Because as long as you need a paycheck, be it from an employer or like my poor dad, he was so afraid of losing his government pension.
Yeah.
And I'm going, Jesus, what a way to run your life. Your pension? So my old man kind of got fired. He lost his pension. It was the most frightening thing in the world to him. He had no pension. Then it was Social Security, which is even worse.
Yeah.
So that's why my goal when I was about your age, a little older, around 25, I said, my goal is to never need a paycheck again from anybody, even the government. I don't want any Medicare, Social Security, or whatever. You know, when I was a military pilot, I said, oh, you got to get the military pilot pension. I said, you do, but I'm not going to. And just because of this here, that was the difference. Because I never wanted to work for money to need a paycheck. So the next few lessons in millennial money, you'll find out what I do work for. So for right now, just let me go to the lesson here. So this comes from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and these are some of the distinctions. It was the advantage I had at age 9, because I knew what I wanted to work for. And this here, in simple terms, is called a financial statement. In school, they teach you to get a FICO score. FICO is BS. All it means, how good are you paying your bills? That's all FICO means, okay? Should be the FIDO score. Good dog. So this is what your banker wants to see. So when I was 9 years old, playing Monopoly with my rich dad, this is the lesson that's not included in Monopoly, but rich dad taught me. And fundamentally, the problem that most people make, they go to school to get a job,
and they work here. So this is the poor, middle class, and these guys. And we're going to talk about later, your first line item expense is taxes. You know, just recently, President Trump said he had a tax cut. He didn't have a tax cut for these guys. As you know, the rules are always written for the rich, okay? I didn't make the rules. You can get angry at me, but these are the rules. The rich make the rules. The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So the tax cut went to people here. That's where it goes to. You'll learn more about this later on. But this is what I work for. So what I work for, number one, is I'm an entrepreneur. I want businesses. I have multiple businesses. And I don't work in them, as you know, because you work here. You never see me, do you?
No.
Because I don't work for a paycheck.
Exactly.
Next is real estate. And real estate is good for many things which we'll go into, but number one is debt. I use a lot of debt to buy real estate, and I pay no taxes. That's the relationship there. The next is paper. And that's savings, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't save money. I don't have any of that. But this is what most people have, go to school, get a job, get a 401k, and save money. Loser. Okay. I'm doing that just to upset you guys, because maybe you'll start to think. Because I didn't make the rules, I'm just telling you these are the rules. These people pay the highest taxes, and they work the hardest. And the last are commodities, 4 different asset classes. So commodities are, number one is gold, silver, oil, land, water, food. So this is what I work for. When I left school, rather than working for a paycheck and working for money, my education had to go beyond getting a job, which I had a good job. But I now had to start, when I left school, about your age, the thing I focused on first actually was commodities. So back in 1972, I started buying gold. And it was illegal for Americans to own gold. You can imagine that. Wow. Back in 72. Today you have Bitcoin. It's different, okay? Everything is changing so rapidly today. So I started with gold, but actually the next thing was actually oil, because I went to school to be a tanker officer driving ships for Standard Oil. So I understand oil. So my wife and I don't own Standard Oil or Chevron or Exxon. We own oil wells. Again, taxes. You get no tax breaks for owning paper oil, huge tax breaks for owning real oil. Yeah. And then I went into real estate. Why? Because I can use debt to buy real estate. And because I use debt, I pay no taxes. And then third, I started my business, my first real business. I had many businesses as a kid, but my first real business was a nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And I went worldwide right away. The trouble is I was an idiot, and the business went up, and the business came down. What kept me alive was this and this. Okay. So you may say, well, aren't you working for money? But we'll go into that next. I don't want what's called a paycheck. I want cash flow. From here. So that's what I mean by the rich don't work for money. You want cash flow that pays very little taxes, and I can use lots of debt over here. The average person who went to school, their biggest liability they have is student loans, of course.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
I mean, it's horrible what they do to you guys today. You have student loan, which is the worst type of debt of all, because you cannot declare bankruptcy on it. And then you get out and you try and buy a house, and you call it an asset when it's really a liability. Why? Because the cash is flowing that way. Your house costs you money. You rent a house, it still costs you money. Okay? Then you have to have a nice car. I had one of those. This. So the problem with most young people is they go to school to get that job, then a lot of them have student loan debt, then they try and get married and buy a house, have a car, and then they have credit card debt. but they never have the chance to come over here. If they do any investing in America, it's a 401k, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, you should, but I don't, because I don't have to. Because I went to school for here, and people who don't go to school should be here. This is a 401k, IRA, ETFs, and that stuff, paper, savings. I don't touch that stuff, and we'll go into that later on, okay? So when I say rich don't work for money, I never wanted to be dependent on a paycheck, either from an employer or the government. I wanted to be a free human being. Did you ever wonder how the rich don't pay taxes?
Of course. I mean, it went viral when Trump said he's paid zero in taxes. And so it got me wondering too. It's like, well, one, how can I do that?
Right.
Because I need that. I mean, it would be great if I could pay zero in taxes. And two, how exactly can they structure it to get zero in taxes?
It goes over here to fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. It's all the same. And all of these guys who are screaming for the rich not to pay taxes, I cover it in fake. I actually have an article from the New York Times where they interviewed Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law, was Ivanka's husband.
Yeah.
They're richer than the Trumps. Jared Kushner's family is richer than the Trumps. But the reason Jared explains it, why these guys pay no tax, is because they're in real estate. Mm-hmm. They're not in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. And so he explains it. So the reason the rich don't pay taxes is because there's 3 types of income. They'll never teach you this in school. The fake teachers will never. Number one there's 3 types of income. Okay, number one type of income is earned income. That's earned income. It's when you work for money, it's earned. Mm-hmm. So that earned income shows up here. So these are the guys that pay tax. So when all the guys are screaming tax the rich, well, you can't tax them because they don't have jobs.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely
It's kind of funny, isn't it? We're going to tax the rich. Oh, yeah, good luck, And then the second type of income is portfolio income. And portfolio income is from flipping houses, or you buy a stock for like $10, you sell it for $20. That's portfolio income. Okay? I don't do that. Trump doesn't do that. So most guys who are flipping houses and all that, buying stocks and flipping to you're getting this type of income. So this income is about 20% today. Some of that here. But the income that the rich work for is called passive income. Passive income is also known as cash flow. That's the name of our game, cash flow. And that income is income that's flowing from here to here. It bypasses taxes. So I know it doesn't sound fair, and it isn't fair. I don't disagree with you. But what's not fair is our schools, which are part of the problem, will never explain that.
And so because it's passive income, is it not taxed because I guess you guys are creating jobs and owning and providing houses?
You're getting smarter there. It's not illegal because the tax laws are incentives to do what the government wants done. So the reason the Trumps, Kiyosakis, and Kushners pay no taxes is we provide housing. Number 2 in the B column, we provide jobs, so we pay no taxes. And 3, it's a bad word, is oil. When you drill for oil, you pay no taxes. But if you buy Chevron, you pay taxes, stocks. If you provide food, you pay no taxes. So if real financial education, which will never be taught in school because they're fake teachers. When I was 9 years old, my rich dad taught me how to become rich by playing the game of Monopoly. And I didn't understand why I was playing this game of Monopoly. And one day, Rich Dad said to me, he says, there's many ways you can become rich. One of the best ones I found this game, Monopoly, because games are some of the best teachers in the world, because all games engage
4 intelligences. Number 1 is your mind. Number 2 are your emotions, fear and anger and sadness. Number 3 is physical. How can you learn to walk if you don't fall down? And number 4 is spiritual intelligence. As Maria Montessori said, what the hand does, the mind remembers. My teacher was Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. And he says, I don't work for me, I work for everyone. And that was one of the biggest lessons I got from the military. From the military was very high spiritual intelligence. That's why your dad and I get along so well. Because when we went into combat, which is a horrible experience of good and bad people, enemy and friends, but when we climbed into our aircraft, there was a crew of 5. We became one. It is the best feeling, as horrible as it is, flying into combat, because we might not come back. But it was the highest feeling of all. It was spiritual. And I'm afraid it's not just millennials, it's human beings, Well, is this good? Is this bad? Is this the best Vuitton shirt? Can I get it at a better price? Or he's cute or she's cute, but is there somebody better? Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
So you guys are stuck in your head. And I think you should get more into your spirit, saying, what can I do for my fellow human being?
Yeah.
What can I do for the environment? And I think the biggest secret of my success is I have all, we all have these. We all have some degree of physical things we do. Yeah. Emotionally, I'm a basket case a lot of the time, I get upset, I get angry, I get sad, I get my feelings hurt. And I'm always, this is good, this is bad, this is, you watch politics, it's all good and bad, it's a bunch of BS. But what keeps me going is this, and it's spiritual.
Yeah.
Is how can I serve others? How can I serve the planet? In my world, like I said, I see people, they chase shiny objects. And what a shiny object means is, when you're fishing, you throw a lure out, this little shiny object goes, and the fish comes and they jump in. That's what most people do. Bitcoin today is a shiny object. I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money in it, but most people are chasing shiny objects. They want to make money. They're not building an asset here. The reason they don't do it here, this is the highest risk. Now, this is what I know. The higher the risk, the more education it takes. For example, if I wanted to learn, and I flew, if I wanted to just fly my little Cessna 172 around the place, not much risk in that. But when I had to go to Vietnam to fly, the risk went up. I had to study harder, become better, work harder at it. The reason most people stay in paper, 401ks, IRAs, and chasing shiny objects like Bitcoin is because they don't want to take the risk here. They're huge. You've got to study. That's why we have Rich Dad's Education, Rich Dad's Coaching. All of you guys are allowed to take courses and all this. If you come here, it takes no intelligence to be here. It takes no intelligence to buy Bitcoin. I have 5 Bitcoin. It didn't take, I don't have to do anything. Over here, I have to know a lot. Over here, I have to know a lot. I have to study. So if you want to chase shiny objects like the stock market and all that, you can get rich there. It's really easy to get in here. It's really hard here. Any comments, any questions? Does it make sense? They're chasing shiny objects.
So I do agree with you when you talk about Bitcoin being a shiny object that everybody's chasing, right? And one of my favorite stories that you've told is about your mentor, Frank, when he sent you to Peru so you could learn a valuable lesson about maybe something that wasn't such a shiny object and turned into be, because shiny objects change every day.
So I wanted to learn about, they have ICOs, initial coin offerings. I wanted to learn about IPOs, initial public offering. And it's how you take a business and turn it into paper. You turn it into stock. So I went to see my friend Frank, who was hardcore here. I don't know how many companies he started and taken public. And I said, Frank, and he didn't know me from Adam. I said, I want to learn to do an IPO. And he goes, yeah, you and everybody else. He says, most guys don't have it. They don't have the guts. They don't have the determination. And they're wimps. I said, I want to learn. He says, how bad? This is up here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I said, badly. He says, okay, this is Wednesday. Be in Lima, Peru on Saturday. I went, on Saturday? and we were shooting our video for the cash flow game, you know. He says, how bad do you want it? I said, badly. He says, you meet my president in Lima. Frank never traveled. You meet my president in Lima, and I'll find out how bad you want it. So that was Wednesday. Wednesday night, I was on a plane to Lima, Peru. I had to pay full boat. I paid my own way. Most employees can't stand that because they don't have any money. I flew into Lima, Peru. I went to look at 3 gold mines, and with Frank's president. It was an experience and an education I would never have if I didn't show up. It cost me probably $15,000 to $20,000 just for airfare on that thing. I get back on Tuesday to talk to Frank, and I said, Frank, there's nothing there. He says, I could have told you that. So why'd you send me? I want to find how badly you want to learn. Just most people don't have it. They want a job, they want job security, they want a paycheck, they want a 401k. And that's why they don't get to come here. That's why they don't get to come over here. Nothing right or wrong, you know. I don't ever want to be here. I knew when I was your age I wanted to come here, but the higher the risk, the higher the returns, but also the higher dedication, education, and study you have to go through. So today, and I'm making millions and millions, I make more in a day than many people make in a lifetime. But it was worth it. Did I lose? Sometimes, yes, but it was worth it. You go to school here, you take no risk. That's why my poor dad was poor. He didn't like to make mistakes. The differences between what they're teaching in school and what we at Rich Dad teach. So this is the very big difference. Like I said, most school teachers are like my poor dad. And this was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What you're seeing here is a financial statement. Mm-hmm. You know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book on accounting, the most boring subject on planet Earth. But book number 2 of Rich Dad was this one here. And this was called the cash flow quadrant, right? You have E, S, B, and I. So, test for you. What does E stand for?
Employee.
Good. And what do employees always say?
That they work for money.
But they want job security,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Paycheck, and pension.
Yes.
Okay. What does S stand for?
Self-employed.
They're small business owners.
Yes.
Doctors, lawyers.
They work for tips.
They work for tips now. So they're self-employed. Mm-hmm. And B stands for what?
Big business owners.
So 500 employees or more.
Yeah.
And I stands for what?
The investor.
Investor. It's more than just investor, it's insider. You see, this is like Shark Tank on the TV shows. These guys here have done this and have done this. So this was my poor dad, this side. This was Rich Dad here. So the difference, that's what schools are not teaching you, is what's the difference between these people and these people. That's the big difference. And that shows up, so when I was about your age, I had to make a decision. I was a pilot. You know, most of my friends went to fly for the airlines, but I'd be here. Or I could be, I could be an Alaska flying fisherman around the place, a pilot with a small plane and, flying around the place. Or I could own an airlines, or I could invest in airlines. And that's the difference in the mindsets and skill sets. You don't just make crossings. The education is extremely different on this side than on this side here. Most people go to school to become employees, stands for E, employee. Or they become specialists like social media guys. But where Rich Dad is different is that this is what you go to school for, you become doctors or lawyers or accountants or pizza shop owners. But this is the B and the I side. This is big business, and this is in professional investor. Not stocks, not mutual funds, not ETFs, not 401ks, not that stuff. Professional investor. So the problem with most millennials, they went to school and they came out here, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's the problem. What Rich Dad does was shift you to think on this side. So the B and the I side, 500 employees or more, and professional investor, you want 401ks and stuff that's on this side. But you have the power with this thing to go over here. So my whole message is this, and this is all from my Rich Dad. This is called the BI triangle, B and I. to be a big business owner and investor, there's 8 steps to it. Number 1, you have to have a mission statement for your company. Number 2, got to have a team. Number 3, you have to have leadership. And now then you have product. Everybody says, oh, I got a great product. Well, product is the least important thing. Then you have to have legal. You have to patent all of the contracts. Systems. A car, an automobile is a system of systems. A computer is a system of systems. The human body is a system of systems. That's why you have a good team. You have the communication. This is the most powerful communication device ever. But most people use it to text and complain.
Yeah, check their social media accounts.
Yeah, grow up, you guys. And then here we have cash flow. Cash is either flowing in or flowing out. And this is leadership. So Shane is over here on the leadership side. He coordinates all these people with this thing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
So you have the most powerful tool in history. Let me say this before I begin, because we're talking about going to school or education, whatever that is to you. And education is more important than ever before. But the problem I have with school, traditional education, number 1 today is creating young people like you to be greatly in debt, right, with pension. Not pension, but
student loans.
Subprime student loans.
Yeah.
You got subprime education. So education is more important than before, but what do they teach you about money? Nothing. So my point here is this. Education is important, but the thing I don't like about labeling a child or a student ADD, okay? ADD is another word for extreme boredom. Why don't they just call it what it is? A child doesn't have ADD. The teacher is boring. They're boring people. Why would I listen to them? So I had ADD, but I call it acute boredom. Then they say you have dyslexia. Well, what the heck is that? I have dyslexia because I was sound asleep. I was always drooling. I couldn't believe how boring the teacher was. Yeah. On top of that, they were teaching me a subject I wasn't interested in. When I had calculus and trigonometry, I kept going, when am I going to use this stuff? So anyway, this is my point of view. Education is the only business that blames the customer for the teacher's incompetence. Let me say it again. Education is the only business where you're allowed to blame the customer for the teacher's incompetence. You see, in business, I can't do that. If my students are failing or my customers are failing, then I'm responsible for it. But how in the world can these teachers get away with blaming their customers for the teachers and education system's incompetence? And let me say this one more time. Education is more important than before, but what the heck are you learning? That you're stupid. I was called stupid so many times, I almost went nuts. I flunked out of high school twice when I was 15 and 17 because I can't write. And today, I've sold more books than most teachers ever will. It's in the millions of books. So who was stupid? That's the whole point here is this. Become a professional investor. It's not easy. You got to study a lot. But this is what I see coming. Okay, it's a financial statement. It's the balance sheet. What I'm concerned about for the millennials, okay? So here we have M for millennials. It's a lot of you. But over here we have today, boom, baby boomers, me. And what's going to happen is that it's going to be the flow of people. You guys are going to flow over here, and you'll be producing the income to pay the taxes and all this. These guys are going to come over here. We're going to be the biggest liabilities you've ever seen. They estimate that, and nobody knows the real number, but the estimations are this bill for all the social programs, the welfare programs, all the Social Security, retirement plans, and all this is estimated to be $265 trillion. You guys are going to have to pay for that.
So when old guys like me move over here and you guys take over the economy here, what's going to happen is, go up. You have to pay taxes to pay for these guys. So that's why when I speak to young people and all this, I kind of joke around a lot and things like this. But this is a massive, 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 massive social problem. You know, like if your mother and father had no money, what would you have to do? You have to pay for them, right?
Yeah.
Can you afford their health care right now?
I don't think so.
You know, like I cut my finger here 2 years ago. The bill was $34,000 for one stitch. $34,000. That's where this comes. They're estimating. They don't know how much this is going to be total, all the national debt and all this. And as we're talking, you know, they can't balance. They need to extend the budget to pay for our bills and all this, and it's only going to get worse. So when I speak to your generation, our generation had it really easy. We're going to cruise over here. You guys have had it pretty hard, and it's going to get worse, is my opinion. So that's why the idea of go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, put in a 401k. That was my generation. It didn't work for us, but you guys are going to try the same thing. So today you have most of these people who have a financial plan, and they want you to give them their money. You know, put your money in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, and savings. Okay, you know. And most of that money is gone anyway, as we talked about earlier. In the last 2 years of most people's lives, all that money disappears anyway. So what's the end game for Kim and I here? And for Kim and I, our end game is the end financial plan is this money goes into what's called a CRT, a charitable remainder trust. This charitable remainder trust then means the government can't tax me. That's the reason. And, you know, and you got to study taxes. The only people that pay taxes are these people here because they're not doing what the government wants. Over here, I'm a partner with the government. The reason I get a tax break here is because I provide jobs. These guys don't provide jobs. I get a tax break here because I invest in real estate. Most people have a house. I have thousands of houses, and we provide housing. I provide oil, you know, so I get the tax breaks because the government's my partner. If you go to school and get a job over here, you will pay this tax. And you should, because you're not doing what the government wants. I do what the government wants. So at the end of our lives here, we're going to put it here into a CRT. And the goal is the government can't tax that money. And it goes out. And for Kim and I, our goal is every year we're going to give $100 million to charity every year. Most people will be broke at the end of their lives. So we're going to give all this money back. And for into perpetuity, charities that we support, like I'm very much into the oceans, so I support Greenpeace. Kim loves animals, so she supports animals. We support all these things that we can't do because we're working our businesses. So we give our money back to charities. We give it to Boys and Girls Clubs and other charities all over the world. $100 million for a lot of people, you know, for kind of like Trump, not a lot of money. For us, it's a lot of money. So $100 million a year is our goal. Today, we're probably, if I died and Kim died today, it would probably be $25 million a year. But I have probably another 10 years, 20 years to live. So this is the ultimate goal. Kim has probably another 30 years. So can we make this? Most likely. And if we don't make it, we're still at 25 million today. But that's the end game here. We just give it back. And because we give it back, the government doesn't tax us. That's why I love the tax law. As you know, we learn little to nothing in school. But in fact, you'll find out that going to school actually diminishes your ability to get rich. So that goes counter to what everybody tells you. You go to school, get a job, and you'll make money. And that worked probably 1,000 years ago. Not working today. It didn't work for me. I mean, I have a college degree, but I learned nothing about money. And what I've learned, I had to learn on my own from my rich dad. So we're going to be talking about school, making mistakes, and we're going to talk to you about cheating. Okay?
My favorite.
Yes, subject. Okay, so in school, what do you have to do to cheat?
I'd say finding a smart person in class and looking at their paper.
You see, when I was in school, the definition of cheating was I asked a smart girl like you. And that's how I got through school. I always sat next to the smartest girl in my class. And the teachers kept throwing me out because they said, you're cheating. But I'd go to my rich dad and he goes, that's not cheating, that's cooperation. And so I have my poor dad who would have said I was cheating, and my rich dad said I was cooperating. So there are two different points of view. Now there's this brand new book out. I'm having everybody in the company read it. It's called Big Potential. And it's by Sean Acor. Now he's not a flunky like me. He was 12 years at Harvard as a teacher and all this stuff there, and he studied all these students. And he's the one that found out that the age of suicide is going down. Kids are committing suicide at a younger age, and depression went from age 28 to 14. And he said the reason is because how we teach kids. So all you school teachers out there, don't read this book because you're going to find out you're damaging kids. But worse than all, it's making it harder to get rich. Because what he talks about here in this is in school, they talk to you about the survival of the fittest, the A student. Were you an A student?
No.
I was not an A student either. I was a C student. And I found out that by cheating, I was actually preparing myself to do well in business. The big thing about risk here is this. In school, they compensate for risk by telling you to memorize the right answer. So in other words, these kids leave, young people like you, leave school thinking, oh, if I know the right answers, then there's no risk. And it drives old guys like me crazy. Because everybody's talking about millennials. What's wrong with them? Mm-hmm. Millennials are the most highly educated generation in history. They have the cell phone. They didn't get educated in school. They got educated on social media, on the cell phones. They know all the answers, but they're afraid of doing anything.
Yeah.
The biggest complaint about my generation is millennials know all the answers, but they can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And the reason they can't do anything is because you might hurt somebody's feelings, you might make a mistake, and that just keeps you guys just trapped in this little box here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I think millennial money is such an important point here, because if you're going to come into my world, old guy's world, or the information age, you've really got to understand what is risky and what is not risky. And in my world, if you play it safe, that makes you stupid. Because if you don't take risks, you don't get smarter.
Yeah.
So you may know the answer, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I had is I went to military school, then I went to flight school. I had such great teachers, All of them could fly. So my flight instructor could fly. What a novel idea. A flight instructor can fly. But when I was in high school, most of my teachers were terrified. Mm-hmm. They're all cowards, job security. Don't make mistakes. Just memorize the right answer and you'll be safe. Mm-hmm. And that's why most school teachers aren't rich.
Yeah.
And they teach that to your generation today.
Yeah. And most of them are teaching us things that they don't do on a daily basis. Like we have entrepreneurship classes. Oh! And they're not entrepreneurs, So it's kind of frightening when you think we're relying on the school system. Oh. And the fact that they're teaching us, so the way to get through college, right, is practicing all the right answers, taking the exam, putting in all the right answers. Yeah. When in real life, that's the last thing that'll ever happen, right?
No. Like, you talk about fake, this is my book, Fake here. Mm-hmm. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. The reason it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets is because it all has to be fake. You have to have fake teachers to understand fake money. Then you have to have fake assets to
to buy those stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, fake assets. But without fake teachers, fake money, you can't do it. So that's why I love working with on these programs here. Because if you're going to be successful, you've got to take some risk.
Yeah.
And when you take a risk, you make a mistake, and you might learn something, because we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. Look at Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in the world, and one of the greatest athletes. He's made a lot of mistakes. You know, he would not be a great golfer sitting in a room listening to a teacher who never played golf tell Tiger how to be a golfer. And so, but Tiger, remember, don't take any risk. Don't pick up that putter. Don't pick up that driver. Don't hit something because you might go out of bounds. So don't take any risks. And that's why your generation is more screwed than my generation. You know what I mean?
And in class, we look up to the person that knows all the right answers. So really, it's just this mentality of having to be perfect and have this perfect intelligence.
And know all the right answers.
And know all the right answers, when that's the person that'll probably be the least successful in life, because they're not willing to make these mistakes.
So let me say this again. Education is more important than before, but you got to be careful what you're learning. That's why I wrote the book, Fake Money, Fake Teachers, and Fake Assets. Don't listen to fake teachers. Yeah, I have a friend. He teaches entrepreneurship at UC Santa Barbara. And I call him up and I say, how in the world can you teach entrepreneurship? He says, well, I have a master's degree. I said, ask the question again. What gives you the right to teach your entrepreneurship? He says, I have a master's degree in entrepreneurship. And I say, hey, Doug, you and I have been friends for a long time. You've never started a business. You're a fake teacher. He goes, but I have all the answers. I said, yeah, but you don't know how to start a business. So that's why I do, again, what I do. Education is more important than before, but be careful. There's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets in the world. Like some of the biggest fake teachers are those financial planners. They're telling you to save money. Why would you save money when the government's printing money? Then they tell you to invest for the long term in the stock market. And you guys know the stock market is ultra short term. There's high frequency trading. Today, long term is a split second. But they're telling you, guys like my generation, to keep your money in the stock market for 40 years and you have nothing left at the end of it. Then they tell you to save money. I go, what the heck's wrong with this? The difference is when I left my high pay, so I got a job with Xerox. So that's the last job I ever had. So when you look at the cash flow quadrant here, ESBI, here I was, okay? And I was making a lot of money at Xerox. I went to Xerox for one thing, not the money. I worked at Xerox because I had to learn how to sell. Because entrepreneurs have to learn how to sell. So I was preparing for this quadrant here. But I was really preparing for the big business quadrant. So I took a job at Xerox for 4 years. So I was preparing for these two quadrants here. So when I talk to young people like you're here in social media, you're learning the same thing I was learning at Xerox, except you're learning technology-wise. It's very smart.
100%. That's exactly what I'm doing here. And one thing I actually really do appreciate when I worked at the bank was that we were very sales orientated, and that's all that mattered. And I think that's where I got a lot of my sales skills too from. Like
Talking
it was
to people.
learning how to get rejected and finding a way to not get rejected next time.
So the lesson to young people is don't take a job for the money, take a job for what you're learning. And the harder, it was really hard because I didn't like, I'm actually a very shy person. So learning how to sell was the hardest thing I could do. But if I hadn't spent 4 years learning how to sell, I never made it here, I never made it here.
So the entire time that you were here, you were preparing to jump to the other quadrant.
Correct. So every job is not so much for the high-paying job with job security. For not everybody. Most people should have job security because they're not designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you better take this job and say, well, which way am I going to go? So I knew my job at Xerox was to go here and here and here, not stay here. And I actually make so much money over here that I don't need job security, I need the money. So really that's the lesson. When you look at a job, you look at what can I learn more than how much can I make. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look for a job where you can learn a lot, the harder the job, the better it is.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And the sad thing today is there's guys my age, old guys, who should be retired, but they can't afford to retire. So they're going back looking for a job. Last night I was talking to this Vietnamese guy. He lost his job with a telecom company. He was a computer programmer. So the saddest thing, and this guy I meet, nice guy, probably a few years younger than me, he's now working 3 jobs because in his head, I mean, he was a high-paid executive with a telecom company, and he lost his job. The company's out of business. I won't mention his name.
Yeah.
But he still has go to school, get a job. It's still running his head here, rather than say, what can I learn? And today, I mean, it's really sad. I was having coffee yesterday, and this guy comes up to me. He's about my age. He says, can I come to your company and apply for a job? I said, man, you're as old as I am. But he says, I just don't want any problems. I just want the paycheck. Most successful entrepreneurs have gone bust, right? Yeah. You know, Henry Ford, an old-time entrepreneur, he went bust 5 times. Okay, look at Steve Jobs.
Yep.
His own board fired him.
Yep.
You know, Bill Gates was taken before the Supreme Court for monopolistic practices.
Right.
Even my friend Donald Trump went down $1 billion.
Yeah.
I only went down $1 million. So the average person is so afraid of those losses, they never get ahead. Because at school they teach you if you make a mistake or if you fail, you're a failure. But that's not real life. A baby learns to walk by standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down. And our school system punishes you for making mistakes. That's why my poor dad, an academic, was so unsuccessful. He was terrified of making mistakes. Once again, is your generation, you got more fake to wade through and to figure out what's real. So today's millennial money is fake rich people. And from my world, you know, I started with absolutely nothing. And I've run in my lifetime, some of the most dangerous people on earth are fake rich people. And in my world, which is money, how do you know if somebody giving you advice is real or fake? So they go back to you, because your generation is also called millennials, the bling generation, right?
Yeah, it's all about what you wear and how you act, and portraying this life of living our best lives. And so traveling, buying purses of name brands.
Well, how about these guys who have $500 sneakers on?
Yeah. And and like, you know, I used to work at a bank, so you would see this person come in with this lavish car and this like their Gucci belt and their Valentino shoes, and had probably about $50 in the bank account. So it's like either they're knockoffs or you really don't know how to use your money.
Right. So one of the reasons you want to know about fake rich people is, I would say 95% of Americans are fake rich.
Yeah.
They may have, you know, a nice big house, the Beamer, the whatever they got, and all this. They might have the fake Rolex or the fake this on, but I mean, how much time does your generation talk about bling, like purses and stuff like that? And
I think we're in the generation where we fit perfectly with keeping up with the Jones. And so I think it's more important for a person, for an average millennial, how they look and this life that they appear to be living than how financially healthy they actually are.
The problem with many people in my generation is they look rich, but they're fake rich. So the first thing that most guys or men and women buy is the big house. So these rock stars, football stars, they buy the big house. That's fake rich. Then they drive nice cars. And you know, I have my Rolls sitting out here, I have my Ferraris. I love nice cars. And then they have a lot of bling.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very poor person. So the thing is, how does a young person know, especially if you're looking for a spouse or a partner and all this, and in business also? My biggest challenge in business was that I had a lot of business partners who were fake rich. They had nothing. But they lived in the big neighborhoods and all this. As one partner said to me, she says, "You only make $100,000 a year?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, and I went, "But the 100,000 came from the asset side." Mm-hmm. So 100,000 came from assets going into my income. And what they had is they had no assets. But her husband had the high-paying job.
Yeah.
And so their cash flow pattern went like this. Most went to taxes. And then they supplied this big house and all this.
Nice car.
And then they had their kids in private schools.
Yeah.
So when you're driving around the neighborhoods looking at so-called rich people, most of them aren't rich. They're actually one paycheck away from disaster. So if you talk to young men or young women, whatever you guys are into, is you want to talk about assets. So that's my wife and Kim and I talk about all the time is our assets. Our minds, as I've said this before, is in the asset column. Yeah. The average person, the middle-class person, their mind's in the liability column. So as a young woman today, I strongly suggest keep your mind in the asset column, because I know when I was your age, a lot of it was just handling expenses, right? Was to rent, food, clothing, just survival.
Medical bills,
right.
Everything.
And then the biggest mistake many young people make is they want a high-paying job. And the trouble with a high-paying job is most of them wind up here in the liability column.
Mm-hmm. But Robert, you have a Rolls Royce sitting outside and your Ferrari out here too, so what does that mean?
Well, I like the nice life too, okay? But this is the difference in financial IQ, financial intelligence, because I think one of the most stupid things people say to young people, live below your means. Do you want to live below your means?
No.
Nobody wants to live below. I don't either.
Yeah.
So that's a poor person, okay? So this is the difference and why we have the Rich Dad Company and why I wrote the book Fake and Rich Dad Created the Cash Flow Game. It goes to this, okay? So here's my ruler. And I've had 6 Ferraris. I love nice cars. Again, this is my paddock, and all this stuff. And they're all real. I don't have a fake Rolls Royce out there. So the question is, how does somebody have this stuff? So that's what most of the so-called fake financial advisors will live below your means. Yeah. Well, look, sweetheart, I love my Rolls Royce, I love my Ferrari. I may be Japanese, but I look better in Ferraris and Toyotas, you know what I mean? So this live below your mean is fake advice. If you really want to have the nice things of life, focus again on assets. Yeah. So the deal I have with my wife, Kim, is I can have anything I want, but my asset must pay for that. So the rule of thumb that Kim and I have as a couple is that if I want a new Rolls Royce, a new Ferrari, new boat, anything, any liability, I buy the asset first, then it buys the Rolls Royce. So what's buying my Rolls Royce right now is I have apartment houses and golf courses. I just focus here, and I can have anything I want here. So for young millennials like you, focus here, or you can focus here. If you focus here, you can have anything you want. The reason I wrote Fake is because it's about fake money. Yeah. So that was 1971. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. What else Nixon did in 74, he opened the door to China. And today all the jobs left America. Another thing that Nixon did, he created the 401k, fake pension. So in the 1970s, when I was about your age, that's when the world was changing. So fake money, fake teachers. Did the teachers ever tell us that?
No, never.
And they still don't. Yeah. The teachers are such a waste of time. Their education is important, but what are they teaching you? So it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. So the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I wrote this book, Rich Dad's Prophecy, and fake, they're all saying the same thing, is, whether you went to college or not, this one thing is guaranteed. If we're lucky, we're going to get old.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but your father tells a story of when he retired from the Navy. How much was his pension?
His pension was probably $50 a month.
$50 a month.
And he was paying for my grandparents' healthcare costs.
Right.
That wasn't even enough for the plate of food that day.
Yeah. So for the millennials, you guys, it's even worse because you probably won't have a pension. Yeah. Are you counting on Social Security?
Not at all, and I think many people are.
So look at this chart here. This is Social Security. It goes bust now. It's bust. Medicare is bust. One of the saddest things about America today is not only are we the biggest debtor nation in the world, but when I was your age, only 20% of our budget went to entitlements. Today in America, it's 75%. We have all of these people saying the government should take care of me, which leads to AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Comrade Sanders. They all want the government to take care of them, just as we're going bust. So that's why we created the Rich Dad Company, because it'll give somebody like you a chance. Your generation's toast, I hate to say that. This is worldwide. Pensions are broke all over the world. I was just in Romania talking to these young guys that said, everybody stole all the money of our pensions. And that was in Rich Dad, in fake assets. They steal your money through your money and your assets. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah, and we grew up with the sense of entitlement because that's what we've been taught as of today. And what really frightens me is that people still talk about their pensions, and soon are the parents, people who have parents who have been depending on this pension are soon going to find out it's not going to be there. And so, what's going to happen? Why is it that no one's talking about the fact that it's underfunded by $7 trillion?
It's actually 17 trillion.
17 trillion?
But worldwide, it's 77 trillion. So this pension problem is the biggest problem that faces the world. And the reason is our school system is complicit. They're in cahoots with the banks. Yeah. So that's why I wrote Rich Dad's Prophecy in 2002. It was about a thing called the 401k. So again, that started back in 1970, again with Nixon and all this stuff. So when I was your age, there was a thing called the three-legged stool. And what they said was, for my generation, you would have savings, you would have Social Security, and you would have a pension, a 401k or something. Guess what? Gone.
It's all wiped out.
Your generation doesn't have this even. Okay? That's the challenge. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was formed. Like I said, I wrote this in 2002, and I said the biggest crash was going to come in 2016. The reason it didn't come, because I started this book in 1999, I didn't see quantitative easing. I didn't see all this printing money coming.
What's your philosophy when it comes to human resources? How do you get the right people, and then how do you keep the right people?
It's the most important part of business. That's why I went to military school. Then I was a Marine Corps. The reason when I talk to military veterans, you probably have the most important skill of all, because all we're trained to do, whether you're a general or a private, you're taught to be leaders. It is a number one skill of an entrepreneur is people skills and leadership skills. And unfortunately, most people don't have it coming into. So when I do my talks to veterans and all this stuff, I really want to encourage them, because they're pretty depressed because they can't get it. They're a Walmart greeter, which is a good job, but they're afraid to take the leap into entrepreneurship. So, but military guys, I don't care what branch of service, just by the indoctrination process and the survival rate, whether you go to combat or not, is that you learn leadership skills, people skills. You've got to have that. Whether you're a team of one,
You still have to deal with your customers, and the good customers, bad customers, lawsuits, taxes, government regulations, and all this. They're all people skills. So when somebody says to me, what do I need to learn? I said, boy, you better learn how to communicate pretty quickly to people you don't like and get them on your side. How to win friends and influence people. Basic book. The number one skill of an entrepreneur is people skills.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 50 more amazing rules from Grant Cardone, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You got to give something up. Like, I'm always giving stuff up. My life changed when I gave stuff up. When I was 25 and I gave drugs up, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then you give up your friends.
Right.
Because when you start changing,